On June 6, 1944, an armada carrying over 140,000 men crashed through the Atlantic Wall. With troops finally standing on European soil, the world watched with held breath, assuming the sprint to Berlin had officially begun. But depositing that many soldiers on a beach created an immediate, compounding crisis. Every single man ashore required a constant, heavy pipeline of food, fuel, and ammunition to survive, let alone fight a war. To prepare for the invasion, Allied bombers had systematically leveled France's railway and road networks to trap the German defenders. Now, the Allies had to haul their massive supply chain across that exact same cratered wasteland. Without an intact deep-water harbor to unload heavy cargo ships, troops had to drag whatever meager supplies they could off smaller boats directly onto the sand. The advance quickly ground to a crawl, forcing soldiers into vicious yard-by-yard skirmishes through dense 5-meter-tall French hedgerows. The victory in Normandy had created a bottleneck. Without a constant flow of fuel and shells, the thousands of men ashore were vulnerable to a German counteroffensive that could push them back into the sea. Quartermasters scrambled to improvise their first solution. It was the Red Ball Express, a massive looping convoy system pushing cargo from the Normandy beaches directly to the shifting front lines. The effort peaked with nearly 6,000 trucks running nonstop. Logistics officers were so desperate, they started commandeering vehicles straight from newly arrived infantry divisions just to keep the gasoline and bullets moving. The pressure forced Allied command to look elsewhere. They launched Operation Dragoon, a secondary amphibious invasion into southern France, driving upward from the Mediterranean to secure untouched deep-water ports like Marseille. Yet hauling material hundreds of miles over ruined roads from the south was a temporary patch. The sheer tonnage required to power millions of men advancing on the German border demanded an operational port in the north. The extreme shortage of supplies fractured Allied command. General Dwight D. Eisenhower argued for a broad front strategy, distributing the scarce fuel and ammo evenly to steadily grind down the thinned-out enemy defenses. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery pushed for the exact opposite. He wanted to hoard every remaining drop of fuel for a single concentrated armored thrust, aimed directly at the heart of Germany. Montgomery's argument won out, resulting in Operation Market Garden. Planners dropped over 34,000 airborne troops over the Netherlands, intending to seize key bridges and literally fly over the logistical bottlenecks. The gamble failed spectacularly. The paratroopers dropped almost directly onto resting SS Panzer divisions. Cut off from immediate reinforcement and plagued by bad weather that halted their own supply drops, the lightly armed troops were overwhelmed. Market Garden bled the Allied war machine of its last ounce of momentum. With the spearhead blunted and the supply lines still choking, the campaign stalled, guaranteeing the fighting would extend into a brutal winter. Starved of the firepower needed to maneuver quickly, Allied forces were dragged into horrific battles of attrition. Soldiers fought for months in the freezing mud of the Scheldt estuary and the heavily mined, dense timber of the Hürtgen forest. The delay gave the German army ample time to fortify the massive Siegfried line. When 100,000 American troops reached the city of Aachen, they bogged down in a 19-day bloodbath, navigating streets choked with heavy rubble and hidden pillboxes. Sensing the stagnation, Hitler seized the moment. He ordered one final, massive armored offensive, striking directly at the Allies' greatest vulnerability, their fragile logistics. The German objective centered on the port of Antwerp. By driving a wedge through the Ardennes, they intended to sever the Allied supply line and trap thousands of troops behind their lines. High winds, heavy fog, and severe snowstorms grounded the Allied air forces. Under this canopy of terrible weather, the Battle of the Bulge began. German armor surged forward, surrounding deeply entrenched American units in the freezing snow. Then the clouds broke. With the skies suddenly clear, the Allies unleashed their overwhelming air superiority. Swarms of bombers and fighters descended, annihilating the exposed, fuel-starved German tank columns. By attempting to seize the Allied supply lines, the German command drained its remaining reserves of fuel and armor. This left them with few professional soldiers and even fewer tanks to face the 2 million Soviet troops already marching on Berlin from the east. By late fall, the grueling campaign to clear the minefields guarding the Scheldt estuary finally succeeded. The deep-water port of Antwerp was opened, allowing massive cargo ships to dock and instantly clearing the months-long shipping backlog. With an endless stream of fuel and ammunition now flooding the front lines, the Allied war machine lunged forward. Armored divisions tore through the hollowed-out German defenses, securing vital crossings over the Rhine River. The remaining enemy resistance rapidly disintegrated. Hundreds of thousands of German soldiers were encircled and captured, triggering capitulation and the end of the European War. Winning in the West required building a transcontinental supply chain directly on top of the ruins of France. The final advance into Germany was a massive engineering feat, pushing thousands of tons of cargo across a broken landscape every single day.